Hi, my friends. Welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is Heather, and I am super excited that you're here. You are going to hear some tips and some tricks and some ideas to help you live your happiest and healthiest self. I call it Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, back to me, then you can take better care of others, and we can all make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way, and I am super happy that you're here. Hello, my friend. I hope you're having an outstanding day. This is Heather again. Oh my gosh, it just keeps happening. And we are here for the Back to Me podcast, where we like to talk about all the ways that we can find wellness. And what I love about that is for the number of people there are in the world, that's how many ways you can find to be well. And I'm seeking out all of the people in the world to tell me what they do so I can learn even more and share it with you guys. Today, I'm talking to Sam Morrison Wilson. It's like, I want to go, Sam,
Uh,
because it's capitals.
yeah,
Welcome, my friend. So great to
thank
see
you.
you again. Yeah, we always end up chatting, and then it's like, we better get to the podcast.
Yeah.
So, I know you've got this community, Safe Heart Connections, that you have
Yes.
been building and creating, and is super cool and amazing because we've talked about it a lot. But part of what I always love to share with the audience is what road, what happened on your road to lead you to
Yeah.
creating this, right? Yeah,
Yeah. So that's a long, winding story.
the
And
best.
what I know, those are the best. And I am just thankful to be here. Thank you for having me. Getting to connect with other like minded women is one of my favorite parts about what I get to do. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I My healing journey started in 2015. So I've been on this road for almost 10 years. And but the stuff that happened before that that really made me draw the line in the sand. I had never learned who I was, and I recognized March 8th of 2015 as the day that I drew the line in the sand.
I love that
And
you
I
have a
decided
date. It's like you could have a
100%.
party.
And
Yeah,
I decided it was time to fight for me. Yeah, it was time to fight for me and to live the life that I was meant to live. And I had no idea where this journey was going to take me. All I knew at that point was what I had been doing was not working. And I had been married and divorced multiple times. Each time the situation got worse. The last marriage was abusive, and I was truly lucky to get out alive. I know a lot of women don't. A lot of women stay because they think that they don't have a choice. And it's a really scary place to be. I was actually on a podcast that was just released last week where I actually told that story for the first time ever, openly. And
right.
usually I get to the point I'm like, I was lucky to get out, and that's when my healing began. And what I'd like to just say to anybody listening is if you are in that space now, um, do what you have to do to protect yourself. That doesn't mean you have to get a divorce. That means protect yourself. Reach out. You're not alone. There are people that will help, and um, you can do this. You can
Right.
do this. If I could do it, anybody can do it. I had never been financially responsible for myself. I'd always had a husband. I went from person to person to person. So I worked and I did things, but I wasn't like, it was never on me. Um, I was single for a period of time and I worked, had a job, and I made just enough to kind of cover things, but I had never really done it on my own intentionally to be successful. And at the same time that I got out of that abusive marriage, my youngest child, I have two kiddos that went through that chaos with me,
Mm,
which was my biggest. I don't have many regrets in life. Bringing them through that chaos, though, um, is something I wish I could have done differently. We have really great relationships now, though. I've made amends, and we're all good. Um, but at that same time, my son was graduating from high school and went to college. So I went from a complete state of chaos and everything being up in the air and just trauma and to complete silence. I was by myself for
That's
the first
that's a
time
big,
ever.
thing to navigate
Yes.
without
And
throwing
in
yourself
that
back into the chaos, right? Because people are like,
exact
"Too quiet."
yes. Yes, that's exactly true. I recognized in that moment. So I drew the line March 8th. By July, I was out and on my own, and I recognized I could go one of two ways. I could go back to the chaos, or I could do something different. And I'm so thankful that I chose something different. And when I moved out, I actually moved to a town about 30 or 40 minutes away where I knew absolutely no one. My family, everybody's like, why Mesquite, Texas? Why Mesquite? Like, why?
It's
And
a
I'm
really
like,
good spice.
because I have, yeah, because I know absolutely no one. I know no one. And um that was a really good decision for me to just isolate, not in an unhealthy way, to remove myself to where I wasn't dependent on anybody else. And I was able to focus on me. Unfortunately, my abusive ex husband found me really quickly. It's
Mhm.
a whole different story. And so I moved not too long after, and I picked another town that I didn't know anybody. So it worked out fine. And so I went on this healing journey, though, that has allowed me to create relationships that I never would have thought was possible. I have the life, like if, in 2015, if you had asked me, are you ever going to be in a loving, healthy relationship with a man? I'd have been like, think I'm going to tap out on that one.
Right.
And but the coaching I have received, like I didn't do it on my own. I think that's one of the things that's really important for women to hear is that it's okay to get help. It's okay to have a coach or a therapist or a counselor, whatever you need. I was talking, I still have four coaches that I work with right now on a very regular basis. And I was talking with one of them yesterday, and I was thinking through the process of what would my life have been like if I hadn't invested in the coaching and the programs that I did to get me from here to there. And quite honestly, based on what I know, I wouldn't be alive. I
Wow.
know what was going
That's
on up here.
right. That's pretty major.
Yeah.
That is like
Yeah.
that well, first that you drew that very clear line, which is super amazing, and that you can recognize in retrospect that the decisions that you made saved you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So the first training I went to was an immersion thing that was with a big group of people. I think there were 60 people, 70 people that started in our training. We called it a class. And by the end of it, it was over 4 months, different weekends and times. There was probably 35 or 40 of us that graduated together. And it started I started September 11th of 2015, and on September 25th of 2015, they did a process that allowed me to take suicide off the table for myself ever. And so now I still have, and it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while, a little thing will come up, and I'm like, nope, that's not an option. Guess I'm gonna have to figure something else out. And
Right.
I wish I could remember what they taught because I have no clue. People say, well, what was it? I'm like, I don't know. I experienced something that you can only experience in that moment, I guess. Because believe me, if I knew what it was, I would be telling everybody.
Right. And it's interesting, like sometimes the things that have the biggest shift in, because this has happened to me, the things that shifted you the most, you remember everything except that detail because you don't need it. It's almost like you don't need it anymore. It's
Right.
like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
need to store
agree.
that. I did it. Check. Moving on. So people say, how
Yeah.
did you do that? I don't know.
I don't know. I did. I just did. And oh, so that was 2015 and 2018. we got some news in our family that was really hard. It's still hard what happened. And in that moment, when I got that phone call, I am 100% sure that I would, and I still get goosebumps when I think about it and start to get emotional, that I know in that moment, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have been able to manage that, um, with my brain the way it was. Not
Right.
only was I a different person and I had taken it off the table, but I had a community of people to be around me. And when all that was going on, um, there was 4 people in my life that were I was really close with, and I needed to talk to them, and we got together at a girlfriend one of their houses. 2 of them were guys and 2 were girls, and we were bawling and, like, snot crying and just all the things, like,
The ugly
it wa
cry.
yeah, the ugly cry, it was bad, and, I wanted to mark that moment, but I didn't wanna take a picture because no.
We
And
don't need
so
to see that.
something in me no, that nobody needed to see it. And so I took somehow I'd never done this before, but I came up with the idea of let's take pictures of our hands. And those people, those hands were what carried me through that moment. And if I
Right.
hadn't been on the healing journey, I wouldn't have even known them.
Right.
So
It's
now we take hand pictures all the time. It's been several years. And I even taught my grandkids the hand thing. They're 5 and 11. And they had a big loss a couple of months ago. My daughter's first cousin, who was more like a sister to her on her dad's side, that my grandsons were super, super close with, died in a tragic car accident, just
oh,
gone.
right.
And they were having a real, I mean, it was, of course, I mean, if they weren't having a hard time, they would have just been masking
Right.
the situation. Like they wouldn't. So they were processing as 5 and 11-year-olds do. And I went over and I was talking to him and I sat him down and was talking just about what had happened with Ashley and honored her and said, I know I've lost people and it's never easy. But what I want you to think about right now is this last week as you've been going through this, who have been the helpers? Who were here that came and helped you um, through this? And what did they do? And so they started listing their names and saying the things and their faces just lit up. And it was pretty amazing for me. I told them I had a situation that happened years ago. And of course, they're like, well, what was it? And I'm like, it doesn't matter what it was. What all it matters is I had people there to help me. Right.
Right.
And so to be able to teach, I wasn't as present as a mom as I could be. But now that I know different, I can do different.
Right.
And I have a better relationship with my kiddos and my grandkids, they're never gonna know who that other person was.
But they get the benefit that that other person did exist, right? They get the benefit that
Yes.
that person existed, figured out their way through it, and has come out the other side,
Yeah.
which is, I think, part of like the things we go through. If we, you know, getting through the other side is part of the chore of being here, so that you can be that person who goes, "Oh yeah, this is this is
Mm.
why this is a different perspective to think of." And I was just thinking about how you were saying, we going back to kind of alluded to it a couple times. See, we don't have to do it alone. I find it so interesting that you don't notice it until you start looking around. How much of what we are influenced by or fed or consume are the lone wolf and this
Mm.
person on their own who the superhero who does everything, but that's not how life works. and
Yeah, it's not
if
how
you
we were created.
and if you look into village life, like even not in that far distant past village life, it was all community. And I mean, it was very segregated in terms of whose jobs were what, but I think that was more from a practical point of view. It's like the women are going over here to do this sewing circle and the men are going to build the barn. But it was always together and supporting each other. And when somebody, I remember this show on the Waltons. Oh my God, I used to watch the Waltons when their house burnt down and all their friends
No.
came and brought them stuff and helped them rebuild. At least that's what I
Yeah.
remember of it. It might not be true,
Yeah.
but we've gone away from that to isolating ourselves. And sometimes you do need alone time, but you don't need to isolate yourself. What isolating yourself in the time of when you need the most help is the worst idea,
Yes. Yes. The times I've gotten myself in the worst trouble in my life is when I try to do it by myself.
right? And I know there's some people who are introverts, and not saying you have to go into a group of 60 people and bare your soul or anything, but
Yes.
even just like you said, like 4 people, even 1 person could help you kind of lift yourself up, right? Your little angels in disguise coming to help you.
Yeah.
Every time I fall off my bicycle, and I don't do this tons, but there's at least 4 instances where I've fallen off my bicycle, and out of nowhere, someone has just magically appeared and helped me up and dusted me off and made sure I was okay. Then they
Oh,
vanish. It's like,
they're like, were they really there?
I don't know if they were really
Yeah.
there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were
Yeah.
doing your healing, like you mentioned, you found your way to heal. I mean, some people go, but how? Like, what do you is it an accepting? Is it a thing is it a mind? Is it a and
I
what
think
group,
it's a choice.
right?
It's a choice. I think that if we want a different life, we can have one. We just have to make a different choice. Well, and my choice before was thinking I had to do it alone. I thought that um, I wasn't worthy on my own, that I had to have somebody else to make me complete. I didn't love myself. I wasn't attached to being alive. And so I decided that hasn't been working. So let's do the opposite. Let's just see. And so I really dug in and got to know who I was. And that time of being completely alone and just the silence, learning to be okay with that was magical. Before I started my healing journey, I had never gone to a movie by myself. I had traveled a little bit for work, but it was always a work thing. It wasn't just for retrospection or just to be with me. And retreats, and I'll go away for a couple of days and just by myself. And the very first one I did, I kid you not, it was so funny because I was still like not sure if I was okay with this. I went to this little place, a cabin, and it was actually on a working ranch in East Texas. And though there was no Wi-Fi where I was at. Like, so not only was I by myself, I couldn't get my computer to work to get on, like, to listen to music. And I had 3 songs saved. And so that's all I could listen to. And so, I mean,
Might as well
I
just
was
turn it off.
forced.
Right?
I was forced to be with me. And now I crave it. And I crave it, and I look forward to those times, and I'm very happily remarried. I met a relationship coach and went through his training. Absolutely helped me in ways I legit did not know I needed, and he says results like this are not guaranteed. But we started working together in January of 22, no, 21 of 21. And then I met my now husband in May of 21. We dated for a year. We were engaged for a year, and now we've been just married for over a year.
That's
And
awesome.
and it's been amazing. And so there's been a lot of other things, other coaching. There's been several things I've had to do. What I would say is to the women listening is learn what you can. And then if you still need more, there's still something not right. It's okay to find somebody else or to like from Coach Dale, who I worked with, I learned some stuff. And then from Andre, my relationship coach, I learned some stuff. From the training in 2015, from Celebrate Recovery, all of them because I've done all this stuff, it has given me all the tools I need. So it's not just a one size fits all that you have to have.
What was the training in 2015?
It's called Pathways, and
Okay.
it's in Irving, Texas, which is where I happened to end up. It's so funny. When I moved from Mesquite, I moved to Irving for a job I was working at in Irving, and I kid you not, Pathways was in the same complex where I was working
That's why you
and
were
had no
supposed to move.
it was just bizarre, and so, yeah, yeah, it was crazy, and so I didn't know it at the time, but Dr. Phil is actually the one that created Pathways. He has
Oh,
nothing to
cool.
do with it. He hasn't had anything to do with it in years. But so the how's that working for you? We got a lot of that. And but the training was really, really good, and it put me right in the middle of my stuff, like face to face. There was no denying it, and we were all different. Everybody had our issues, and there was, like I said, like 70 or so of us in the first part of the training. And the first part of the training is what they call a weekend, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And during open share and the big group, I never spoke. I spoke in small group type things. Um, and the interesting part about not that piece, but the weekend, you got divided into small groups, and they had what they called training assistants, and you got to choose which one you wanted. And out of all the training assistants there were only 2 men. Everybody else were women. And I thought, well, I have issues with men, so I'm gonna pick one of the guys to try and get some help from this. And so I go get in front of this guy named Tim Carr. There's one guy in front of me, and then Tim Carr is there. And by the time I don't look behind me, and there's like 5 or 6 people in our group. They're all men. Every last one of them. And so what happened with that was I got to see healthy men that could love me and treat me with respect and kindness and not do anything to hurt me.
Right? There
And
are those men in the world.
there are. And then the next training was what they called a walk, and you don't walk. I don't know why they call it that, but it's Wednesday through Sunday, and you're not leaving the hotel. It's immersion, and it was so good. Wednesday night didn't say. I finally said something. I stood up and um, I stood up on that Thursday night, and said, "I'm the girl known for smiling," because I was. I had a company called Smiles by Sam back in the day, and everybody knew me as the smile girl. And the facilitator looked at me and said, "How's that working?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not. It's fake. It's all fake." But I hadn't allowed myself to feel. I was 44 years old, 43, I guess. I had not allowed myself to feel, and I'm very empathetic as a human. I don't know that I'm an empath. I think there's lines of that. Um, but I do take on feelings, and when I feel now, it's so deep it hurts sometimes. And imagine having that as a gift. I do believe it's a gift, and having it completely shut off your whole life. And then you learn to feel, and it's like this thing where, oh, I can't take it. But when you learn to feel, not only do you get to feel the bad, but you get to feel the good. And so I had missed out on so much in my life because I didn't feel.
Right.
And
You were
it was
basically it was
beautiful.
protection, right? If
Yes.
I don't feel it, then it won't hurt. Because I
Yeah.
was just having a conversation today actually with someone. I was actually doing their Akashic records, and it was like, you gotta get into the feels to
Yeah.
feel all the feels because this is the path to feel all
It
the
is the
feels.
path.
And
Yeah.
it's so interesting that by allowing yourself to be alone, you find community, which is counterintuitive, right? And I've okay, I'm someone who has never ever thought about taking my life. And when I talk to people when I've talked to people in the past, I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it's like I can't even compute or understand. And I still can't really understand, although I understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had friends who, when mentioning, spending time alone, some people can lose their minds in that space, which is why,
Mhm.
meditation teachers always say, meditate with a master. So when the crazy comes, there's someone to help you out. So how did you find that when you're in that alone space, you're alone, but you managed to build community? Was that you found the community to help you through those little bumpy spots, or how did you come out of the alone to the together?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't know that I've thought of it like
Ah,
that before. But I do know that being alone in that apartment, one of the trainings that they had us do was basically visualize a safe space, a special place. Lots of coaches do that. And what I recognized in that moment was that my special place was my apartment. And how cool is that to be where I lived and where I was? And so I was able to feel the safety in my own living space, right, which was beautiful. And then because of the relationships that I had built, I knew that I could go out and be real and vulnerable and have people accept me and love me as I am, not because of anything I've done, just because I'm there. And that's something I had never, and my family, I love my family. My family did the best that they could for themselves and for me, and I wasn't the best child, specifically to my dad. Sorry, dad. I say that a lot. Sorry, dad. But I've made amends to him as well, and we have a really great relationship. And so, um, what I know is if I had tried there's a balance, and I think that might be what you're getting to. The balance of the alone to build the community. There's a bridge there that if you want true healing, you can do it on your own, but then to really, really experience it, the community is what makes it magical.
right. Yeah, I think that I didn't know where I was going with it because I don't know who asked the question. The universe was asking because
Okay.
I heard it coming out of my mouth. I'm like, "Wow, that's a good question."
Yeah.
But I think of it as like, that alone time allows you to understand and see yourself fully
Mhm.
and be okay with that. I had a friend once who said, I asked him why he kept serial dating and why didn't he just stay single for a while? He said, because he didn't like to spend time with himself. It's like, what? I couldn't understand
Yeah.
that either. I was like, what? What? I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah.
So um, it's being able to be with yourself and happy with yourself so that you can take that person that you like out to meet other people without an expectation of they're gonna dislike me because I'm XYZ, and you name it, because I
Right.
breathe too loud, because I'm too quiet, because I'm too loud, because I'm too tall, because I'm too short, because I'm too
Yeah. Yeah.
pink, because I wear too much purple. I wear purple a lot.
Hey, don't be judging the purple.
I love purple,
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
but it is
Getting to
funny,
the getting to the place where I could be okay by myself, I think that's truly the only reason I can be in a healthy relationship now.
right? And this is interesting because when I see people from in long-term relationships break up where one of them doesn't want the separation, that person is so defined by their self is so defined by the relationship instead of themselves that I visualized it the other day as like, when you plug into the wall for an electric and you're like,
Mhm.
I'm juiced up on the electricity from this person. And then they unplug you and you're like, oh, where am I gonna get my juice now? He's like, "You
Right?
plug it into
Yeah.
yourself."
Yeah. So I'm very happy to report, during COVID, I wasn't able to do my writing retreats, but I've started doing them again a couple years ago. And my last husband, so people say, how many times have you been married? Well, only once in a river. So, and that we got married in a river. And so it's the only one that counts. But he honors that. He's a Texan cowboy, just a country boy. And I love that about him. And he knows that when I go away for a few days and do this, that it really helps me be better. And he benefits from that. So much so that he wants to plan Labor Day weekends coming. Well,
This is November.
this, yeah, this is November. Anyway, he was able, he's going, he went on a trip. He's making plans without me to go and allow me to have space on my own.
Isn't
Not
that
that he
awesome?
doesn't want me. Yeah, not that he doesn't want me to go, but he knows that it's okay
Yeah,
and that we're good. And him going to hang out, one of his brothers is in a band and he wants to go watch some of the music and hang out with them, and he can do that, and then I can stay and just have my own time. And that's a beautiful place.
it is. In
Never
my
had that
I've
before.
I've been only married once on a mountain.
Okay, that's all that counts.
Yeah, but in other it's interesting you say that because in other non-mountain relationships, the idea of being separate was it felt a bit foreign and odd because it wasn't in my spectrum of understanding. But this is November right now, so my husband Brad has been gone for 3 weeks. He's traveling in right now he's in Dubai. And I was like, "Wow, that's awesome. Bring pictures when you come back." And in September, I'm walking the West Highland Trail because he didn't wanna go. I'm like, "Okay." But we love traveling together as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
when you can be your own person and bring your own person to a relationship, I think that makes that relationship a better relationship because you are defined by yourself and you've agreed to support each other in whatever that person needs and however you can support that person and you've agreed to travel together, which
yeah.
is
And
beautiful.
Andre, my relationship coach, he describes it as a rubber band. And if you're always in the same space, like you're together and you never go, and then like when you go, then you come back and it's like whoop, and then you're back. Right. It's just an energy that pulls you back together and that you need that alone time to be able to then come back together even stronger.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's amazing, and I'm very excited because I'm picking him
Yeah.
up actually tomorrow morning at the airport. I'm very excited to see him. So my elastic band is coming back together.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Now I know you have
Yes.
a virtual summit coming in January that we wanna
I
make sure
do.
we tell
Yeah.
people about.
Sure. Yeah, so I host 4 events a year, and in every January, it's a virtual summit just to start the year off right. And at safeheartconnections.com, I'll have a link to where people can get it, all the details. I don't have the date exactly yet, but it'll be the way I do these is you'll be able to come and watch the speaker live if you want, or you'll be able to get a replay in the community. And so I do different topics where the women are sharing usually about self-love, but sometimes it's a little different. The reason we focus on self-love at Safe Heart Connections is after all these years, Safe Heart Connections has been around for 9 years.
Hmm,
I started it right at the beginning of my journey. I had no idea what I was doing then or what it would be. And it's been an amazing journey as well. And I used to say that we were an online community group for women that had identified one or more areas they wanted to improve on and make connections along the way. And that's still very true. That's really what we're doing. But I focus on self love because I believe if you don't get that part right, nothing else is going to matter.
right.
If you don't love yourself, you're going to behave differently than you do if you do.
Yes.
And right. And so I have to also break the thought. A lot of women, especially Christian women, I find, and I am Christian and I love Jesus. So when I say this, if you're Christian, don't be mad at me. Um, it's okay. But we were taught from a little tiny child that self-sacrifice is what is expected, especially of a woman. And that we continue to give and give and give when we have nothing, absolutely nothing left. And so I teach a way to give to yourself first, to keep your cup so full, not a half empty cup, but keep your cup so full that it overflows to the saucer and you give out of the saucer of your life in some kind, generous, loving ways. And so self love is not selfish. It allows you to give the way God created you to.
Right.
And I have to break that pattern, that thought for a lot of women because they don't know, they've never done anything for themselves
That's why the podcast
at
is called
all.
Back to Me. It's like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me that you have to go until you drop dead
Yes,
and
every
that
day for the rest of your life. And it's like that's what I tell them. It's like you're on a treadmill that never ever stops. And a lot of people think that self-care is self-love. And that's another thing I have to break because self-care is part of self-love. But if you don't have the other selves that I call them, self-growth and self-awareness and self-respect and all like self-care is just one little tiny piece.
yeah,
And it's the easiest thing to pinpoint because women don't typically take the time to do it. But if you can read 15 minutes a day and have some self-growth, that's a starting point. To
right.
have a gratitude journal, to write down one thing a day you're thankful for. I believe that gratitude is the powerhouse of creating a life you love because you're focused on all the good. And when you focus on all the good, guess what? You're gonna see more things to be thankful for.
More good comes. According to Abraham, the more good you
Yeah.
focus on, the more good comes, which I
Yes,
think is
for
amazing.
sure. Yeah. And so but there's some things that women just have been conditioned to learn to do that just aren't true. And so the base of the community is and always will be free. There are other programs that I offer that are paid, but I keep it to where if I wouldn't pay it, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to offer something that I wouldn't do. So,
Right.
um, any woman that joins the community, they get a free self-love assessment. They take the little assessment, and then I do a Loom video back to them with some, you know, personalized feedback based on what they shared. And I've gotten some really, really good feedback from just that one thing. Women have been like, "Oh, I can do this," and it helps them along their journey.
That's awesome. And yeah, I know that your community Safe Heart Connections is on school because I just looked at it today, SKOOL. And I
Yes.
am going to put all the web links in the show notes for people who I said, what was that? So everything
Yes.
goes in the show notes. Don't worry. And definitely go and check out the community because I know you have lots of really awesome people in there. And s- it'd be super interesting, I think, for a lot of people to go take the self love quiz, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I do the become quiz, uh, but it doesn't really hone in on that one aspect that I think
Yes.
you're right is very key to helping people. Oh,
Yeah.
so
I
good.
do have one tip I can share
Yeah,
if you want.
absolutely. I would
One
love
of the things
tips.
one of the things that I have found most common is on this quiz that there's 20 questions, and one of them is, how often do you speak to yourself with love and kindness? And a lot of the women, that is an area that they really struggle with. And so I have a suggestion. It's something that somebody told me years ago, and it really worked. Every time you go to the bathroom and you're washing your hands or you're brushing your hair, probably not when you're brushing your teeth because I want you to say something, right? But every time you go in the bathroom and you're looking in the mirror, say something nice to yourself. say
And that's
something nice
really
to
hard for
myself.
some people.
It 100% is. And so maybe you start with, um, you know, pick something that you can say that you believe, and maybe it's like say or just say something nice. "I like my hair today. I'm brushing my hair. It feels good. My skin feels soft. My skin feels soft." I was kind to my husband today. I messaged a friend that I know's been going through a hard time and just let them know I was thinking of them. And the goal in my mind, what I try and work with my women to do is to get them to this will take time. This is not an immediate thing, but to be able to say and believe that I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Right.
And if I can do it, dang sure anybody can.
Yeah, that there's a book out right now called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It.
Because
And
it does.
and he doesn't give you the, the easy way in of just, I like my hair today.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
wants you to look yourself in the eye and say that you love yourself. And some people don't even look at themselves in the eye when they're looking in the mirror. Because I remember the first time I did it, I was like, whoa,
Whoa.
whoa.
Oh, there I am.
Because you
Yeah.
don't think of it, when you're looking in the mirror, you're checking out all your things. You don't
Yeah.
always stop and actually look in your eye. So
Mhm.
look in your eye. And if it's too
Yeah.
hard to say you love yourself, tell yourself that,
You're doing your best.
you're
That's one of the
doing your
ones I
best.
tell them.
Oh,
I'm
that is a
I'm
good one.
doing my best. I'm
Yeah.
doing my best. I'm
Yeah.
doing my best. Yeah.
And today that's
So,
enough.
yeah. One of the women I interviewed from my micro interview series recently, she said she tells herself in the mirror, she'll say, "I have a 100% success rate of getting through the bad days."
That's
100%. You can't get any better than that. 100%.
100%. And that's another thing I want to mention. You do have your micro interviews because I was on your micro interviews a few weeks ago.
Yes, yes.
And that's YouTube?
On YouTube, yeah, I put them on YouTube, I put them on podcast platforms, I put them on all the
Okay.
socials and in the community.
So
They're
we
really
will,
for the community,
yeah.
right? That's why I do them, but just to get the social exposure and letting people see and get connected to the women I'm interviewing, what I've recognized is I'm really, really good about helping the women learn to say, "I deeply and completely accept and love myself." But as they do that, their mind starts to open and they start to recognize there's things that they maybe missed out on or they wanted to do and they didn't do. A great example of that is one of the women in my community she's amazing. And she got connected because of one of my micro interviews to a woman that helps people write books. She's writing her life story. She's writing a book now. And if I tried to like I can't be all things to all people. So I keep these interviews really short. They're usually less than 10 minutes. And just a tip, a thought, a piece of advice. And it's the women love them and it's great exposure for me, for the person I'm interviewing, and it's just a win-win all
Yeah,
around.
absolutely. I love it. Oh, wow. They've got a lot of stuff to digest today.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And that's
Thank
good
you for yeah.
because, come on. Well, before you go, don't go yet because I
Okay.
always give my guests the final word of wisdom.
Yeah.
What do you got? You can have more than one word.
No, okay. What would your life look like if you loved yourself? And if it's different than what you have right now, today's the day to make the choice to do it.
That's excellent. Beautiful. Very wise. Very wise.
Yeah. The crowd goes
The
wild.
crowd goes wild. Sam,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me. Our conversations are so great. I just,
Yes, I appreciate you.
so much to go on and talk about. Oh my gosh. Friends in podcast land, send this to
Yes,
someone who needs it, right? Share this because, as we were saying at the beginning, alone is fine, but together is good, is great, right? So, you want to go far, go together, right?
agreed.
Thank you, my
Thank
friends. Don't forget to
thank you, Heather.
subscribe and send love. Send love. Take care.
Yes. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Heather.
Bye. Hi, my friend. Thanks so much for listening to this entire podcast. If you found it useful and you're like me and you like helping others, please feel free to share this. Give it a like, give it a comment. If you found something useful in it, there's a chance that someone else will find something useful as well. Also, if you have any questions at all, I can absolutely help, and I would love to help. You can email me at heather@prosperityflowcoaching.com. If you want more of this awesome content, you can follow me on Instagram, Heather Stewart Coaching. You can follow me on Facebook, Prosperity Flow Coaching. And I have a personal request. I want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. And if you could give me a review, hopefully a good one, if you could share, if you could send this out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that you find your way to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend.